Good evening, everybody. This is Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell with WHAS 11 in Louisville, Kentucky, hopping on our streaming platforms to talk about our severe weather risk as we head into Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. That time frame will bring us the greatest severe weather risk that we do have this week, and it's going to be the transition between this pattern that we've been stuck in where it's been humid, it's been warm, we've been seeing rounds of scattered showers and thunderstorms, some producing heavy downpours, to a drier pattern, but one that eventually gets pretty hot around Kentucky and really across the eastern half of the country. So we'll take a look at the radar this evening. I do think many of us will stay dry, but we are tracking some rain down to the south of Louisville across the parkways. And once again, we'll talk a bit more about our severe weather threat heading into Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. But first, let's take a live look outside. This is from our Hughes & Coleman U of L health camera over downtown Louisville. You can see a mix of sun and clouds there, a bit of blue sky peeking out from the cloud cover. But obviously this week and really since over the weekend, we've been tracking rounds of heavy rainfall. You can feel that moisture in the air even if you're not seeing rain where you live. And as I mentioned, strong storms are possible late Wednesday. That's basically the only day where we are included in that severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. Once we get past that, we're tracking a lot of sunshine. If you want pool weather, I have that for you. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even into next week. But things are going to get pretty hot around here with those dew points creeping back up as well. So if you think it's been a rainy year across Kentucky, well, that's because it has. Obviously, the Louisville International Airport doesn't always pick up the heaviest rainfall, but we have over 30 inches of rainfall at the airport at our official reporting site so far this year. So that's more than 6.5 inches above average, and obviously much more than what we had at this point last year, which was just under 22 inches. So we have surpassed last year by more than 8 inches of rainfall so far. That's our to-date rainfall. Now, in terms of rain chances the next 5 days, obviously high on Wednesday. Thursday, it looks like we could have some lingering rain. We'll see if anything pops during the afternoon, but I think for Thursday, that best chance will be for the first half of the day. And then we dry out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you have any plans this weekend, no rain to worry about, but you have some heat to worry about. So we're really trading one thing for another. We've been stuck in this pattern here for the last several days where we've had the heat and humidity around. We've had some Gulf moisture, some scattered showers and storms, slow movers with some stationary fronts and not strong winds to really move those about very quickly. But once again, after that severe weather threat, which we will go into detail in just a moment, you can see this heat dome building across our area. So you're seeing that circle pretty much across the eastern half of the country. That is a dome of high pressure. And that's going to keep us dry, especially through the weekend. Though once we start to reintroduce more humidity, especially early next week, we'll have the potential for some pop-up storms by the afternoons and evenings. But take a look at your weekend forecast here. We're expecting highs in the low to mid 90s. Now, humidity won't be too bad Friday and potentially Saturday, but by Sunday, that humidity sneaks back in, and it could be feeling like the upper 90s to around 100 degrees during the heat of the afternoon. So expect the heat and humidity to build, lots of sunshine, overnight lows only cooling into the 70s this weekend. But as I mentioned, before we even get to that point, we have our weather impact alert day on Wednesday for Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. Strong winds will be the primary severe weather threat for that, but heavy rainfall obviously possible as we've been seeing this week. Can't rule out hail, can't rule out a spin-up tornado threat as well. So make sure you have obviously multiple ways to receive warnings if you'll be out and about Wednesday evening, and something that could wake you up in the middle of the night if needed Wednesday night. A great tool to have, the WHAS 11 app. You can see the QR code right there on your screen. Now, once again, right now we're in the lower 80s in Louisville. Dew point is at 70, so feeling that humidity for yet another day. Just a light breeze coming in from the south between about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Louisville, we've stayed primarily dry today. I mean, I think we had some drizzle earlier today, some cloud cover. Maybe that kept us a little bit more stable because most of this rain has been down to our south. So E-Town unfortunately getting hit again after the flooding there yesterday evening, but at least these storms seem to be moving pretty quickly. Bardstown, Nelson County getting some rain, Springfield getting some heavy rainfall as well. This is all shifting east-northeast. So this could still lift into maybe southern Jefferson County, definitely Bullitt County this evening, but just not looking to be a complete washout. Off to the north, we did have some slow movers in terms of showers in southern Indiana, but now you all are all dry. And really, as we continue onward tonight and that sun sets, things should become a bit quieter. So here's that big picture view of the satellite and radar. You can see ongoing storms in Tennessee, around Nashville, nothing severe out there. The one severe storm I see is in London or just east of London right now. You can see with the yellow box there. You can tell how it's kind of bulging out a little bit. That would be wind that you're seeing just east of Corbin and London. So there's a severe thunderstorm warning on that. Otherwise, we're kind of getting this gap here that I have circled off to the west and north of Louisville this evening. So that's not to say another spotty shower isn't possible, but we're trending a little bit drier in that corridor. And that lines up with the severe weather outlook for today. Just a level 1 out of 5 big swath there across eastern Kentucky, down to the south and off to the east. Big severe weather threat through Kansas and Oklahoma tonight. They're looking at a level 4 out of 5 with a storm complex that's going to dive southward through their area. But let's take a look at the hour-by-hour futurecast. Spotty shower, especially on the Kentucky side this evening. That really fizzles as the sun sets. We get some dry time overnight. Now, the question is, models, some are painting some scattered showers, maybe a few storms around in the morning / midday tomorrow. And that will be important to track because, as we know on severe weather days, if rain lingers a little bit longer, it can obviously impact the storms that we see later on in the day. So if we have midday storms, it'll take a little bit longer for the evening storms to really catch up. This particular model run has storms moving in from the west after about 7 p.m., a more linear segment there. You can see some strong storms. This is 10 o'clock tomorrow night. You're watching for any kind of bowing, some strong winds, some hail along the leading edge potentially, and some spin-up tornadoes along the leading edge as well. So that continues to push east. That would take us through about 1 a.m. And then this particular model still has another segment of storms rolling through late. I'm going to actually slow that down a little bit. This is 2, 3, 4 a.m. Thursday. So this is early Thursday morning. Out of here by 6 a.m. with that severe weather threat. I don't think it's going to go that late simply because a lot of times when you get round 1 through here, the second round doesn't have any fuel to tap into, especially the later into the night that we go. There's no instability, there's no sunshine to fuel those storms. So I think that could just be maybe an additional round of rain where we'd have to worry about maybe some flooding conditions very early Thursday. So let's take a look at the outlook here. This is a severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. I'm going to zoom out a tad. You can see, oh, I don't like the angle of that. Give me just a second. Obviously, the highest risk that we have on this particular map for tomorrow is a level 3 out of 5 in the orange. So you can tell that that's just off to our west and northwest. And the idea is these storms fire up in the afternoon. During the heat of the afternoon, you have the most instability, the most fuel, the most heat to tap into, et cetera, et cetera. And then it becomes more linear and dives into our area. And as it continues eastward overnight, it weakens. So that's why you're going from a 3 to a 2 to a 1. That's what you're seeing here on this map. I wouldn't worry too much about if you're in the 2 or the 1. I mean, I would overall say we're all kind of in the 2 with this risk, where I am expecting some severe thunderstorm warnings due to damaging winds. Damaging winds are 58 miles per hour or greater. Hail is a lower threat. Tornado is a lower threat, but not a zero threat. And then heavy rainfall, though that will be more for any kind of areas that see rounds of storms tomorrow evening. So let's take a look at the threat by threat here. This is the damaging wind potential for tomorrow, specifically for us tomorrow evening, it looks like. And obviously you can see the red, that is a higher risk off to our northwest. Basically, when you break down these threats, the percentage is the percentage of meeting that severe criteria. So for winds, as I mentioned, a severe thunderstorm warning has 58 mile per hour gusts or higher. So when you're seeing that 15% chance, that means within 25 miles of a point, there's a 15% chance of meeting that severe wind criteria. You can see a higher risk to the northwest, lower risks to the southeast, as I mentioned, as that line probably continues to weaken. Now, other than that, we've got a hail potential. That's definitely lower, 5% of seeing hail a quarter sized or larger within 25 miles of a point. And then tornado potential, 2%. So you can tell that we are included in a tornado risk, but damaging winds is by far the greatest threat because we are in 15% chance of seeing damaging winds. We're in a 2% chance of seeing a tornado potential. Obviously, with setups like these, any kind of linear storm systems, winds do tend to be the greatest threat, but it's those little spin-ups that you have to really pay attention to. And we'll be monitoring that closely tomorrow night. On top of all that, yes, there is risk for heavy rainfall or flooding. Just a big swath of a marginal risk for tomorrow, which is a good call because obviously we've gotten so much rain recently. The ground is saturated. There's so much moisture in the air with these dew points that are so high. Let's take a look at those right now, in fact. Current dew points, I mean, I can already tell, you can already tell by the colors. It's in the tropical range here. We have dew points in the low to mid 70s all across the area. Really, we've just had this steady stream of Gulf moisture in here. So that's what's producing those heavy rainfall makers, and especially if any storms are slow moving, I mean, that combination just provides that potential for flash flood threats. Temperatures this evening, primarily in the 70s, some low 80s, I would presume. Let's see if this will pop up. Yes, so we have upper 70s, low 80s, a little bit warmer off to our west, and ooh, Chicago at 91, goodness. And for us, as I mentioned, we're going to have that heat dome build, especially this weekend into early next week, at least for the first half of next week, it looks like. So we have that severe weather threat Wednesday evening, and then some lingering rain, it looks like Thursday. That's a 40% chance. I think that's primarily in the early morning. But if the boundary doesn't completely clear by the afternoon, we could see something else pop up. We'll keep a close eye on that, but that severe weather threat will be over by Thursday. Friday is the first official day of summer. That is the summer solstice, although I don't think it actually begins technically until 10 p.m. So the first full day of summer will be on Saturday. And it will be feeling like summer this weekend, low to mid 90s. Those 90s take us into next week. And I want to show you all the dew points day by day here. Because yes, we do get a brief reprieve Friday and Saturday. I think dew points will start to drop Thursday evening, Thursday night. Friday should be a pretty nice summer day where it's warm, it's sunny, but it's not too humid. And then Saturday we start to feel it a little bit more, but by Sunday and into next week, we will definitely be feeling that humidity, and because of that, our feels like temperatures or our heat indices are really going to increase. So expect us to talk a lot more about the heat index Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week, because that's when it's going to be feeling like the upper 90s or even like 100 degrees across Kentuckiana with that heat and humidity combined. Our Climate Prediction Center long-range outlook, this takes us through the end of June, trending pretty hot. So expect that heat dome to really take over next week and stick with us for a while. I do want to go back just a moment here to a different weather model. First, I'm going to pop myself up on the screen for just a second. For anybody who joined late, hi, Chief Meteorologist Mallory Schnell here in Louisville, Kentucky at WHAS 11, talking about our severe weather potential for Wednesday. Looks like Wednesday evening, damaging winds will be the primary risk, also dealing with heavy rainfall, smaller hail threat, low wind tornado threat, but not a zero tornado threat. So that's going to be something that we monitor for your Wednesday. And then once this system moves out of here, we get that sunshine back, but we're talking high heat and eventually that humidity building back in by the weekend. So once again, let's take a look at a different weather model. This is called the graph, but basically this is an in-house model. I will say this model tends to underdo some convection a little bit. whereas that other model I showed before tends to overdo things sometimes. But models are wanting to spit something out, it looks like tomorrow morning through about midday. You can see a few of these isolated showers or storms popping up. Not really concerned about the severe weather threat with that. And then take a look at how strange this model is. So it has a complex moving in tomorrow evening, and then more so, this is much later tomorrow night. This is 11 to like 3 a.m. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here in terms of the trying to figure out the timing. I'm actually going to hop into, this was the model that I originally showed you all, but I'm going to change this one so you can see the most recent one. Okay, so this evening, spotty showers that continue to decrease in coverage. Nothing all too major. Tomorrow morning, potentially some pops. And then that moves off to the east. And this one's a lot earlier too. So this has some storms popping up by 5 p.m., northern edge, and then the main line, if you can even call it that, very disorganized, late. 11 to like 3 or 4. So my best advice would be weather alert tomorrow starting at like 5 or 6, but know that it may be later in the evenings, because I'm going to be honest with you all, the last several severe weather events we've had around here, the models do this. Days out, it looks like it could be a late overnight event. And then as you get closer, it trends earlier and earlier. And then the day of, we go back to a slightly later time frame. So I know the last few severe weather threats that we've had, it's really been after 6 or 7 p.m. through about midnight, maybe 1 a.m. at the latest, because obviously we have all of our counties to clear. And when you have a line of storms, a lot of times they go from west or northwest to east to southeast. So we have to wait until it clears Adair County. So when I say that entire timeline, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That could take us as late as 2 a.m. or so Thursday morning. But obviously, we are keeping a very close eye on this severe weather potential. I'll have another update at 11 p.m. tonight on WHAS 11. Matt Breland will be in tomorrow morning. He's on air from 5 to 7 a.m. You can tune into Good Morning Kentuckiana. He will likely be doing another live stream tomorrow. I will be in all tomorrow evening. It does look like we have meteorologist John Gordon that will be helping me out tomorrow evening as well. We'll likely do a long form stream if it calls for it, if we have, line segments rolling in through here. But once again, our best severe weather threat of the week arrives Wednesday evening. It looks like through Wednesday night. Damaging winds will be the primary threat there. But of course, just stay weather alert. And then once we get through that, we have that quieter stretch but hotter stretch of weather for the first weekend of summer. It's always funny to say that in mid to late June, but summer solstice is on Friday officially. And then those 90s really work in here with that heat dome into at least the first half of next week. But I'm going to wrap up this stream here. I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining me this evening. And once again, I will be back on air at 11 o'clock tonight on WHAS 11. Have a great rest of your evening.